As we approach Rare Disease Day 2025 on the 28th of February, we are presenting a special bonus series highlighting the stories of individuals living with rare diseases from around the globe. In today's episode, I, Julian Poulan, will be reading the story of Do Phuoc Huy from Vietnam. At 13, Huy began experiencing undiagnosed symptoms of photosensitive reflex epilepsy, episodes that left him unconscious for hours. For 15 years, he faced misdiagnoses, stigma, and emotional struggles, but found purpose instead of letting his condition hold him back. Now a doctor, Huy is the founder of the Vietnamese Organization for Rare Diseases, supporting others living with rare conditions and helping them find strength in their journey. Hello world, I am Do Phuoc Huy, 30 years old, and I come from Vietnam. 17 years ago, for the first time, I felt like I was not normal like everyone else. One morning, in mid-April 2007, everything in my eyes became blurry and I collapsed, barely able to feel anything. What I remember most is the overwhelming fear of not being able to sense my surroundings. The rest of the details I heard from my mother. At the time, my family and I assumed it was due to stress from studying, or that I was simply unwell. Everything eventually passed after about 6 hours, and I returned to normal. My mother took me to the hospital, but all I was told was that I had a mental illness. Over the years, the frequency of these episodes progressed from about once per year to 3 or 4 times annually. While I was initially terrified, I gradually learned to adapt and recognize the early signs, though not very early, usually only about 10 minutes before the episode began. For me, now, this condition is no longer an enemy. It has become a companion throughout my life, which I call my rare friend. Whenever my rare friend visits, the first thing I feel is dizziness. In my eyes, I see multicolored circles appear as everything begins to fade away. By the time I pass out and lose awareness, I have about 10 minutes to find a dark place where I can breeze through it. If I'm lucky, I'll recover in about an hour, but most of the time, I become unconscious for several hours, or even half a day. One of the worst moments happened in 2020 while I was working at a hospital. I could feel the episode coming, but this time it was very different. I lost control of my bowels. That experience was terrible. From the time my symptoms began until 2022, about 15 years, the diagnoses I received were often hysteria, mental illness, or physical weakness. None of those diagnoses convinced me. I didn't know what else to do to understand what was happening to me. The only thing I could do was find a way to live with it and keep my spirits as positive as possible. Even though I tried my best to stay optimistic, my rare friend caused many difficulties, particularly psychologically. From the feeling of fear, it gave me a sense of inferiority, self-isolation, and many times I was afraid to face the tomorrow. I also feared that one day I would leave this world, abandoning the people and relationships I loved, my family and my wife. Luckily, on that path, my mother and wife always supported me in one way or another, even if they didn't always show it. My mother personally prepared everything I needed to manage an episode whenever I travelled for work. My wife has stood beside me in the loneliness of this long journey called rare disease. Thanks to my rare friend, I found the determination to study and to become a medical doctor. It also helped me partly understand the feelings of people living with rare diseases. Most importantly, it gave me the motivation to do something meaningful for the rare disease community in Vietnam. I established the Vietnamese Organization for Rare Diseases with the hope that it will become a trusted companion for people living with rare diseases, helping them find true value in this life. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of our Rare Disease Day Stories bonus podcast series. If you would like to get involved with the Rare Disease Day campaign, or indeed if you would like to share your story if you have been impacted by a rare disease, visit rarediseaseday.org.